Intro. What the fuck? Sometimes we need to express a four-letter cuss word. This life is full of adventures. I'm taking a 12-week course on Milarepa's healing modality. It is extremely fascinating. You would think that life wouldn't throw you any curveballs during this course. After all, I'm studying and researching ways to improve my health and awareness. Well, life could care less what you think. Come with me on this funny journey in life. We are always in a state of continuous growth and learning. Hopefully, you can gain some wisdom from my journey. We can never rest on our laurels. Definition. Webster's definition of fucked up is as follows. Fucked up, fucking up, fucks up. Definition of fucks up. Intransitive verb, usually vulgar to act foolishly or stupidly. Blunder. Transitive verb, usually vulgar to ruin or spoil, especially through stupidity or carelessness. Bungle. Other words from fuck up. Fuck up, noun, usually vulgar. Long story short. Here's the short version of a long story. Slightly over a year ago, I saw some sores on my feet. It was winter time, and I thought it was due to the dryness in the air. Anyway, I healed 4 out of 5 of them. The last one was almost 90% healed. I was starting to get a little concerned about why I was taking so long. 2 weeks ago, I woke up and my left foot was extremely inflamed. This did not look good. I went to an acupuncturist who was a medical doctor and an acupuncturist. He told me I had a serious infection. I needed to go to a clinic right now. I went to the clinic and the nurse said the same thing. I needed antibiotics right now. I got my prescription. I started to do some research with my brother. I thought I had a great diet. I hardly ever had junk food. John told me in early 2000s he had a blood test. They said he had a body of a 20-year-old. They also said that if he continued eating bread, tortillas, and cheese, he was heading towards high blood sugar. Well, I never knew about that. I'm not sure even if I had the info, I would have changed. This is what I learned about high insulin levels. Because of the large, unrestricted insulin signaling, hyperinsulinemia increases the risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular diseases and decreases health span and life expectancy. In epidemiological studies, high-dose insulin therapy is associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Furthermore, the more I researched this subject, I saw that one symptom was that sores took longer than usual to heal. High insulin levels are the culprit in the majority of our diseases. This is from Dr. Benjamin Bikman. Signs that you are insulin resistant. 88% of the people in America has some form of insulin resistance. Well, only 60% of the population is overweight or obese. So if you have a portion of the people that don't fall into the overweight or obese category by current standards, however, they are still failing aspects of metabolic health. So what are the less obvious signs of insulin resistance? If you can't fast for 12 hours, that's a terrible sign. It's a reflection of insulin resistance and chronically elevated insulin. If insulin is high, you won't be able to burn fat for fuel. It's time to help your body learn how to use fat for energy. High blood pressure and infertility are also signs of insulin resistance. The story continues.
There are two sides of the coin. There are two sides of the coin. Both sides are different. Side A. After the acupunctures, an MD doctor told me to go to the nearest clinic right away. He diagnosed the problem. He said I needed antibiotics right away. The clinic also said the same thing. Both of them said it was quite serious. The nurse practitioner told me to get an appointment with a wound specialist right away. The referral from the clinic got lost in translation. I couldn't get in for over a week. Thank God I was taking antibiotics. The nurse practitioner told me it was a serious infection. She said at that point it was a 50-50 chance I might lose my left foot. She highly recommended hard-body chamber therapy for daily sessions for a month. The cost was $60,000 for a month. That's $2,000 a session. She said we could start the next day and Medicare would pay for it. I said, let's do it. She left the room and came back a few minutes later. She told me the Medicare won't allow this treatment until a month after my first visit to the clinic. I said, could you give me a discount for the sessions? I would pay out my own pocket until the month arises. She left the room and came back and said, sorry, no discounts are allowed. On Thursday, March 24th, my blood lab came back and he told me I needed to find a doctor who could prescribe medicine for this condition. I highly recommend reading this chapter. Reverse type 2 diabetes starts with ignoring the guidelines. This could help through having unnecessary pain and trauma. Side B. Well, $60,000 is a lot of money. They wouldn't even budge and give me a discount. I decided to do a little investigation on the internet. It was after hours and on Wednesday. I filled out an online form asking for information on their services. I got a phone call yesterday morning. Their price was $65 a session. They had it open at 9:45. Would you like to take it? I said yes. I went to the office and asked, do you also have an MD on board? I found out they do functional medicine, which is what I need. Anyway, I booked a month's session for a discount price of $55 a session. It came out to be $1,000. Just think the other clinic was going to charge me $2,000 for one session. I paid less than half of their price for a whole month's worth of sessions. Before my first session, I talked to two consultants from the Epigenics Healing Center. I told them my problem. They have intravenous vitamin C treatments that lower sugar levels to a safe level. They also do testing on the foods that you eat to see if you are in alignment with your body chemistry. Function Medicine Solutions. This is from their website. Unlike conventional medicine, which focuses on attempting to treat disease or its symptoms once it occurs, the function medicine approaches offered at the Epigenics Healing Center emphasizes the importance of improving your health in an effort to reduce the risk of or reverse chronic disease. Is function medicine right for you? Given the option, people prefer to be healthy and wise to avoid illness, and functional medicine can help you achieve your health and wellness goals. If you are already in pain, function medicine offers a unique way to provide pain relief for many types of conditions, including diabetes, hypothyroidism, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, autoimmune diseases, inflammation pathologies, and more. Pain relief and disease prevention are two of the reasons function medicine has become so popular both here in Kansas City and around the world. If you've been suffering from an autoimmune disease or any chronic disease listed above in Overland Park, Kansas City, or Prairie Village, don't wait one more second to begin your road to recovery. Come visit the Epigenics Healing Center, where function medicine therapies are on the cutting edge of research and can help you rediscover health and wellness. For those out of state or out of the country, this health journey will offer a new sense of balance and wellness like you have never experienced. All of our procedures and analysis can be done remotely. Why I chose function medicine and Dr. Goodbinder. People around the world are recognizing the benefits of alternative medicines that will help them achieve and maintain optimal health without required invasive treatments such as surgery. Please take the time to meet Dr. Jay Goodbinder, the doctor dedicated to helping you achieve your wellness goals. To fully understand the nature of your health, we recommend that you join our free website membership program. As a patient at the Epigenics Healing Center, we will personally tailor a natural medicine and wellness program specifically targeted to your needs using the latest invasive yet highly effective techniques and services. The functional medicine approach. Functional medicine is a system biological-based approach that focuses on identifying and addressing the root causes of disease. Each symptom or different diagnosis may be one of many contributing to an individual's illness. As the graphic illustrates, a diagnosis can be the result of more than one cause. For example, depression can be caused by many different factors, including inflammation. Likewise, a cause such as inflammation may lead to a number of different diagnoses, including depression. The precise manifestation of each cause depends on the individual's genes, environment, and lifestyle, and only treatments that address the right cause will have lasting benefits beyond symptom suppression. What is hyperbaric oxygen therapy? Hyperbaric oxygen therapy involves breathing pure oxygen in a pressurized enclosure known as a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is a well-established therapy to help heal the body and mind. It is beneficial for brain dysfunction, inflammatory disorders, and conditions where tissues healed is needed. The therapy method has been used for hundreds of years, with its modern-day form taking shape in the 1950s. Hyperbaric oxygen chambers are a safe and effective means for addressing both acute and chronic conditions. This therapy is widely known as the primary treatment for individuals suffering from decompression, sickness, and carbon monoxide poisoning. However, as more research has been conducted surrounding this therapy, numerous other health benefits have been noted. At the Epigenic Health Center, we are hyperbaric oxygen therapy as part of our package of functional medicine treatments and is recommended for some conditions in the Life Restoration Program. We have seen quality of life improve for individuals that suffer from a variety of conditions with the help of hyperbaric oxygen therapy. March 25th, 2022. The session lasted 90 minutes, 15 minutes initial phase, 1 hour highly charged oxygen phase, and 15 minutes back to normal oxygen. The oxygen level is around 99%. Normal levels are around 33%. You put on oxygen masks and lie down on a comfortable tent with a nice pillow. You have the option to have the windows blocked or not. I chose to block windows so it was pitch black. You put on your mask and they zip it so that you are totally closed from the outside world. You are given instructions similar to being on a plane when the oxygen level changes to yawn and to move your jaw. I only had to do this several times. It was at the beginning of the high oxygen cycle, at the end portion of coming down to a normal oxygen state. To be honest, it was an incredible experience, beyond mystical. My body absolutely loved it. I've been meditating for 50 years, and the level of oxygen that I received was extraordinary. Part of my body that had been lying dormant was coming back online. My foot was being reactivated. The nerves and circulation flow was coming back online. Granted, this is the first treatment. I have a lot of things to change to fine-tune the guitar of life. Once again, synchronicity brought me to this incredible place. March 26, 2022. Today, the clinic I went to originally for this problem called me and asked me how I was doing. I was very impressed and told them so. In this day and age, I haven't heard of such a thing. I told her this story. After the acupuncturist and an MD doctor told me to go to the nearest clinic right away, he diagnosed the problem. He said I needed antibodies right away. The clinic also said the same thing. Both of them said it was quite serious. The nurse practitioner told me to get an appointment with the wound specialist right away. The referral from the clinic got lost in translation, and I couldn't get in for over a week. Thank God I was taking antibiotics. The nurse practitioner told me it was a serious infection. She said at this point it was a 50-50 chance I might lose my left foot. She highly recommended hyperbaric chamber therapy for daily sessions for a month. The cost was $60,000 for a month. That's $2,000 a session. She said we could start the next day and Medicare would pay for it. I said, let's do it. She left the room and came back a few minutes later. She told me that Medicare won't allow this treatment until a month after my first visit to the clinic. I said, could you give me a discount for this session that I would pay out of my own pocket until the month arises? She left the room and came back and said, sorry, no discounts are allowed. She was blown away by the cost and lack of concern from this center. They said it was a 50-50 chance of losing my left foot and nonchalantly blew me away. I told her I found the Epigenic Healing Center and on Friday already started my first session. On Monday the 28th, I have a one-on-one with the doctor for 1.5 hours. She said this was an excellent decision. They handle cases like this all the time. Just think, I booked a month's worth of sessions for $1,000. The other place charged me $2,000 per session. March 28, 2022. Oxygen is intelligent. This was an amazing session. If you ever do this, don't read a book, don't watch TVs, listen to music, or have your phone. The more you pay attention to something, the more attention pays to you. If you are distracted by putting an external stimuli, you really miss the point of it all. True communication is needed in this process. Healing takes your effort and concentration. All the magic pills in the world won't help you if you are not involved in the healing process and the lifestyle changes needed to be in harmony with this wonderful body. March 29, 2022. The hyperbaric chamber was again an incredible experience. I took a few tips. I have a few tips that they may want to look at. First, have the clinician take their time and wait for the patient to be absolutely ready to start the session. I was just putting on my face mask when they started. Don't introduce stress to the patient when all it takes is to be mindful. The more relaxed the patient is from this world, the more benefits will come your way. Don't introduce any more stress. Have a simple blood pressure monitor in the room, just like in the IV room the clinicians use. It's cheap and the patient can take their blood pressure without any help. Have a simple bathroom scale in their room. Someone like myself would like to monitor my weight and blood pressure daily. It might be before or after the session. The patient could do this all themselves. It might be a good idea for the clinicians to have a couple of sessions. Without this, they have no idea what's going on. When they are put into another person's shoes, they can gently change their ways. Consultation. The result of my interview was almost exactly what I wanted. A few comments I have. One is when I spend over $2,500 out of my own pocket and a $150 consultation fee, I expect a 1.5 hour consultation. I'm a senior citizen on a fixed income. Around 50 minutes in the interview process, the consultation was abrupted and I was led to the finance office to pay for my treatments. I still had many questions to ask. I felt she had all the services I needed, and that was the end of the discussion. I was satisfied with the treatment plans and the medicines I got. My twin brother John, the day before, sent me a link on Berberdine. My brother has been studying functional medicine for over 25 years. After I was finished, I called my brother, and he said, "I sent you this link yesterday." He was very impressed. Another example of synchronicity. Last Wednesday, I was told that I had a 50-50 chance of losing my left foot. I took off my bandage, and she examined my foot. I had a hard time putting away back on the gauze wrap. I had to throw away my bandage. I would think a professional would see I had a problem and help. I'm not criticizing here. These are helpful comments to make your business even better. If I didn't care, I wouldn't be saying this. I would give her an A even despite this. We can always learn and grow. The front office and finance departments are top-notch. I was impressed by the female clinician who tried 2 times to put the IV in my right arm. She was very professional and out of integrity to ask for assistance from another person. That was great thinking and wisdom. We know now my left arm is easy to hook up, but my right arm is extremely difficult. I have more helpful advice if you like. This is all about fine-tuning your business. You are offering an incredible service to the Kansas City area. Inner rebooting of operating system. Yesterday was quite a day. I started to take Bearidine before eating my meals. Bearidine helps to lower blood sugars without taking insulin. Just like insulin, it activates the same biochemical pathways proteins kinase, phosphorus activation of GLUT-4 that signals cells to take up more sugar. And just like insulin, the greater the amount of Bearidine they expose the cells to, the more sugar they took up. All this happened in the absence of any insulin. Now I understand why Rich had the great result he had. I also see why he was not responding to the program I described in my book, The Type 2 Diabetics Breakthrough. Last night, my wife Barbara was helping me to put on the oils and apply the dressings. To our amazement, we could see such significant changes. It was mind-blowing. I can't express in words the support and guidance my wife has given me. It has brought us so much closer. When you might have to have your foot amputated, you see the preciousness of life. I woke up to meditate. It was early in the morning. I was quite dizzy. Imagine a heroin addict going through withdrawal. The same symptoms occur when one drops sugar in your life. The body has to undergo great changes. Let's keep it at that. I lay down, and then this wave was all over. I got up to meditate. Within seconds, I felt the inner rebooting of my operating system. I can't put it into words. For the first time in years, I didn't have to get up and go to the bathroom. Furthermore, I could feel a significant reduction of numbness in my feet. All the effort I made was coming to fruition. I was told that this couldn't happen, that once one had to live with this condition. Yes, I have a ways to go. You don't just hear. When you have been thinking, you have been eating right for years. Yet, my inner operating system has been rebooted. If anyone is reading this, I hope you are listening. The lifestyles we live only promote sickness and disease, so much unnecessary pain and suffering. We are getting old and dying well before what the human body is capable. March 31st, 2022. Let's keep this simple. I need your prayers. Today I have to admit myself to the hospital. I have a 50-50 chance of losing my left foot. Despite all the efforts I have made, it is getting worse. If I've touched you in any way, I'm asking for your prayers and support. Life throws us many curveballs. Yesterday, I thought I was on the road to recovery. So many wonderful signs were appearing. I went to the doctor again, and she said, "Incredible try, yet you need much more powerful medicine," and advised me to go tomorrow to the emergency room. The incredible journey of life continues. Reva and the crew. The crew here has been absolutely incredible. I'd rate this place an A+. They are highly professional, and yet they carry true compassion for their patients. They have a lot of humor, which helps in situations like mine. They will always try their best to answer your questions. Many times, I have been woken up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. They always have a sense of humor and compassion. I have a call button, which I use to call and come assist me. They always come with a smile and humor. Sound of a freight train. The MRI experience that I had was quite different. This was the first time I ever had an MRI. I had to wear headphones because the sound was so loud. It was like a freight train whizzing by inches away from your head. It was one of the most annoying sounds I've ever heard. You would think with the latest technology we could develop something less annoying to the mind and body. Someday soon, we will have a device like a cell phone where we can scan a particular part of the body and instantaneously see an image what we want. We have a long ways to go, but probably within 10 years, this technology will be common. Surgery. The surgery was quite stupendous. How can I say? But it was a mystical and practical experience. The anesthesiologist gave me the anesthesia right before surgery. During the operation, I was in a state of clear light awareness. How can I say this? I was in a place of pure light, and yet I was aware of the operation taking place. The first time I had anesthesia, I was completely blacked out of my experience at all. The anesthesia was applied, and the next thing I knew, the operation was over. This was completely the opposite. Meditation helps to bring one's awareness of the sleep state and allows the person over time to be aware that they are in a sleep state and be aware of the clear light inside. Words can't describe this experience yet. The doors are open and we recognize that there is a door within. This is not mystical, but a practical experience that we have forgotten. Be conscious or freak out. I had two choices. One was to be conscious, and the other was to freak out. There is no in between. Either one has faith, or one goes into a frantic state of mind. This will always lead you to nowhere. The power of prayer and meditation is the guiding force that allows one to be conscious and aware of the divinity that lies within. This is the true sanctuary that we all have. I often say the more attention you pay to something, the more attention it pays to you. By doing this, one can be in the center of the hurricane and yet not be touched by the hurricane force of the mind. The mind is either your friend or enemy. This choice is up to you to decide where you place your awareness. This is why I call the spiritual life the most practical life. Slowly through the years, my understanding has grown tremendously. The chemistry set lies within you, and you can control the chemicals that gets released by your thoughts and actions. We can never rest on our laurels. One always has to learn sacred wisdom externally and internally. I thought I had an incredible diet, yet I was totally wrong. The body talks in a very subtle manner. Unfortunately, most of us, including myself, didn't get the message before it was too late. I probably wouldn't be in the circumstance that I am right now. I'm sitting in a hospital bed writing this. Code Red. What can I say? Lying in bed at night. So many different kinds of sounds. Code Red, Code Red, Code Red. Emergency, emergency, emergency. Stroke, stroke, stroke. Heart attack, heart attack, heart attack. Laughter from nurses, laughter from nurses, laughter from nurses. Silence, silence, silence. I love when the nurses laugh and tell sweet stories. They are watching death and life taking place right between their eyes. They are so composed with life-threatening events going on all around them. I have a new respect for the jobs nurses perform. What's for dinner? This is from my brother David. How is the hospital food? They are probably serving you gourmet meals of soup, jello, some tasty meat. Humor. Hospital food has come a long ways in 50 years. They still have a long ways to go. I was given a low glycemic meal plan. Each meal was hit and miss. One time for lunch, I was given a grilled cheese sandwich. This is probably one of the worst foods you can serve to a person with high blood sugar. Bread and cheese are on the no-no list. Most meals were extremely good and healthy. For each meal, I was served a beverage that balanced the sugars in my body. It served its purpose, so I could make a much more healthier drink. Many of the ingredients in this drink are not healthy ingredients. There's no place like home. There's no place like home, said Judy Garland as Dorothy in the 1939 classic film The Wizard of Oz, as she clicked her heels and hoped for the return to the comforts of her own bed and her beloved Auntie Em and Uncle Henry. I clicked on my sandals minus one left pinky toe, and I was transported back home. Wow, home sweet home. It's so incredible lying in my own bed, walking to the house for what seems like an eternity, lay on the couch and felt such sweetness from my room. My wife and I are so appreciative that I'm back home. Silence fills the air, and it feels so good. No longer at night do I hear the emergency rooms, sounds of the night. I won't take my home for granted.
Doctor's appointment 1. Well, yesterday I had my first appointment with a surgeon. It was a pretty amazing experience. He told me that if I went to another hospital, they would probably chop off my entire left foot. He said, "You were fortunate that you came to me." He told me I could start walking 5 minutes a day instead of using my crutches. I tried that last night, and I'm slowly walking without crutches, which is pretty amazing considering I had my surgery only less than a week ago. He told me to take it easy. I got my blood pressure monitor yesterday, and I started to do my sample readings. This morning it was 107/70, which is pretty amazing. I feel blessed, and I feel incredible that healing is coming my way.
13, 2022. Dodge the Bullet. My dear brother John wrote a song called Dodge the Bullet. How true this is. I was so fortunate that I caught this just in time. If I didn't wait, I might not have been around in 6 months. The surgeons told me that this surgery was just as crucial for someone who has stomach cancer. That's how crucial the surgery was. I feel blessed that I only lost my left pinky toe. It could have been my entire left foot. The doctors said that for many amputees that they die within 5 years. I'm not going to be a part of that statistic. I have been given another golden opportunity to live a life to its fullest. I learned to have yearly checkups and tune-ups. We are constantly learning new lessons in life. This life is a journey where we can never rest on our laurels. Science can be very biased. Science can be very biased. As far back as history goes, science does not like people who think outside of the box. Even dear old Galileo learned the hard way. Today, he's considered a genius, but during his time, he spent most of his life under house arrest. I grew up in the house of the future. This was in the early 1950s. Many of the inventions that we had in the house have never yet to reach the mainstream. There are probably thousands of inventions and discoveries that never reach fruition. Just ask a young Zach Bush, who found out the hard way. He discovered a cure for cancer. Today's drug companies want to hold on to their power and control. They are not interested in healing you. If some young, brash scientist discovers a way to cure cancer, they are not in their slightest interest. There are probably thousands of research papers proving that our Western junk food diet is literally killing us, yet these studies never reach the mainstream. We continue to saw off the branch we are sitting on. We would prefer to saw off the branch to change our ways. So much pain and suffering could be averted, yet we hold on to our deadly lifestyles.
Young Galileo, pointing his telescope towards the stars. What was in his young mind? He went against the concepts of his time. During this age, scientists in the church believed that the sun and the planets revolved around the earth. Galileo and some scientists before, such as Copernicus, believed the earth and the planets revolved around the sun. Galileo was the first scientist to use the telescope to prove his theory. Yet, why does man hold on so tightly to his ideas and beliefs? The Catholic Church and the Pope himself couldn't believe Galileo. They said he was a heretic. How dare you challenge this idea that the sun and the planets revolve around the earth? Who do you think you are? Imagine being tried by the Inquisition. They found him guilty and placed him under house arrest. Fortunately, they didn't kill him, yet he spent the rest of his life in house arrest. Today, Galileo is known as the father of the following: father of observatory astronomy, father of modern physics, father of the scientific method, father of science. All I can say is, wow. Imagine Galileo also studied and mastered the following: astronomy, physics, engineer, philosophy, mathematician. He was, in my eyes, a genius. He was way ahead of his time. Isn't it amazing we don't want man to challenge our way of thinking? Man at times loves living in the box. It's a comfort zone. You don't want to learn anything new or be challenged. If someone has something to say that is different, we get angry. How many innocent people got killed in the Inquisition? To be honest, I probably would have died back then from what I'm saying today. Just think, Christ died on the cross. Yet the Inquisition killed millions of people who believed in Christ in a different way. What do you think Christ would say? He would shake his head and probably have tears of compassion flowing from his eyes. Look, this adventure of life is all about discovering the mysteries of life. We should be grateful when we meet someone who has a different idea or concept of life. I was fortunate to be brought up in a household that accepted all ideas in life. Till today, I still love to hear life stories from people all around the world. Imagine, today we have telescopes scattered throughout the universe. We are looking for the mysteries of life.
My brother and I were born December 24th, 1952, in Pasadena, California. We had an incredible childhood My dad and grandfather owned an aerospace company. The first house I remember was near an orange grove. My brother and I would sneak through the fence and walk in the orange grove. There was a tree house and we could climb up on it. We were probably 3 years old. Our house was years ahead of its time. My father and grandfather were both inventors. They developed a house where you could walk in the house, clap your hands, and the lights would come on. The outlets weren't on the walls, but hidden in the carpets. We had sensors that when it rained, the windows would close. My mom would watch us in the backyard by a video camera while she was cooking dinner. This house was featured in the Los Angeles Times Home Selection. This was back in the early 50s. In the early 2000s, I saw a Burger King commercial where my mom was making hamburgers. The frying pan was floating in the air. The stove used induction coils. At that same time period, they developed a Jeep that could shoot at its tires and nothing would happen. This Jeep could float downstream. It was lighter and got more miles per gallon than the standard Jeep. They tried to get the United States government to buy the Jeeps, but after several years of losing bids, they saw the handwriting on the wall. If you don't have inside connections with the government, you could have a futuristic Jeep and nobody would care. During this time, they came up with a way to make houses that would cost 1/10 of the present day house. It was all modular. They could put up a complete house in a week. The trade union was strongly opposed to this. Consequently, it was never marketed. I guess those early years really had an impact on me. I subconsciously adapted to always looking towards the future and bring that technology back to the present. One of my first was multimedia. Even before multimedia was born, I had a company with a good longtime friend, John Slowski. We developed a visual database for the real estate market. You could put in a search for a house, and all house which matched the criteria, the house would come up. When you saw a house you liked, it would take you on the tour of the house. The program won awards at trade shows, but it was far too ahead of its time. We developed some trial photo database programs for the Department of Justice, but finally lost to IBM, who bidded $1 for the job. One of my first impressions when I was young was that when my brother and I was born, I said to him, "You go first and check it out." My brother remembers going down a long, bright tunnel in ecstasy and then told me to come down. I remember it was a rush and both of us laughed inside. When we were young, my brother and I had our own telepathic communication with each other. A lot of people thought we had communication problems because we didn't talk English very well. I remember our state of communication was nonverbal, but with thoughts, pictures, emotions, and experience. It was like if you wanted to know about an apple and you never seen one, talking was one way to explain about an apple. Another way was to graphically send the experience of an apple. I remember hearing stories about tribes in the South Sea Islands who would communicate with their loved ones telepathically. Today, we use telephones. Our sense of communication is more physical. It's kind of funny that people think it is mystical when it's probably very natural. We have simply not used this communication, so we forget we ever had this ability. So now, we scope at the idea that men can communicate in ways that we don't imagine.
Zach Bush. Times have not changed. The same scenario that happened to Galileo is still going on today. Maybe today it is even more pronounced. My dad and grandpa had incredible deals, yet they couldn't get them off the ground. Politics is the name of the game. Without political connections, it's very difficult to obtain your goal. Zach Bush had the same problem. He found a solution to cure cancer with vitamin A. He went through all the necessary case studies and for validities. He discovered a major pharmaceutical company had a patent on his work. He called the company and told them he found a solution that works. They asked him 3 pertinent questions. Upon answering these questions, they promptly hung up the phone. He thought they hung up accidentally. He called back, and nobody answered the phone. He went to some of his colleagues, and they said this patent would never come to fruition. Major companies use the system of copyright laws to stop the progress. They only want to use their current power and have no interest in healing society. Zach quickly saw the handwriting on the wall. He left the academic field disillusioned. Nevertheless, he continued researching. He learned how to think outside the box. There are probably thousands of people like him. The male-dominated continues to hold on to their power and control. This has been going on for thousands of years. When will this insanity ever stop? Zach, glyphosate, and toxins. Over the last 25 years, we have seen the most profound explosion of chronic disease in human history. By 2011, our Centers of Disease Control, CDC, was reporting 54% of U.S. children with some form of chronic disorder or disease by the age 17. These conditions occur in nearly every facet of biology, the hormone and immune systems, the respiratory and neurology systems, and beyond. By 2016, the CDC reported 1 in every 14 kids in the U.S. with developmental disabilities and 1 in 28 boys with an autism spectrum disorder. Attention deficit found in 1 in 10 children. The epidemic is not all limited to children. In adults, a broad array of conditions have been on a steady rise, from depression and anxiety all the way to celiac disease and gluten sensitivity, multiple sclerosis, ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, Alzheimer's in women, and Parkinson's in men, all on near identical trajectories of increase since 1996. Research from around the globe now suggests that environmental factors are now contributing a combination of genetic, neurological, autoimmune, and metabolic injuries that underneath the collapse of health in our children and adults. As we continue to uncover the intricacies of this eloquent balance between soil, the microbiome, and ourselves, the timeline of our chronic diseases epidemic becomes very interesting and in fact provides a pathway to the recovery towards human health. It is now estimated that we spray more than 4.5 billion pounds of glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, into the soils, plants, and water systems of our planet. And there are now dozens of genetically modified plant species around the world which have allowed chemical companies to develop a seemingly infinite market for the weed killers. And after Roundup-ready crops were introduced in the mid-late 1990s, this water-soluble toxin would subsequently work its way into the water within the grains, fruits, and vegetables, as well as infiltrating the groundwater, slowly making its way into rivers, oceans, our air, and ultimately our rainfall. Not surprisingly, the diseases in our domestic animals, from pets to livestock, have followed a similar trajectory. What I am saying is we need to stop trying to micromanage the gut. It's important for you to start backing up to let the carbon redox system, the communication system between the bacteria in the gut, reestablish a healthy balance in the gut. And we are getting sick. Since the 1990s, something alarmingly began to happen in the United States. Diseases in what seemed like completely different organ systems were going epidemic almost simultaneously. Dementia in women increased. Parkinson's in men increased. Autoimmune diseases hit an all-time high. Today, 1 in every 2 people will be diagnosed with cancer before they die, and 1 in 36 children are now diagnosed with autism, compared to a mere 1 in 5,000 in the 1970s. Why are so many diseases in such unrelated parts of the body increasing at such a rapid rate? What's the relation? The connecting factor is chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation is the root of all diseases. To boot, we spend more time indoors and in routines that completely disconnect us from Mother Nature. We have lost touch with our food, how it is grown, who grows it, what we are actually consuming, and how it is reshaping our biology. This disconnect has made us more prone to chronic illness than ever before. So where do we go from here? Our opportunity as consumers, farmers, businessmen, governments, and beyond is to build a new healthy reality for humanity, our planet, and all those creatures, great and small, that create the web of life that we have called home since our origin. The answer is regeneration agriculture. Through fundamental changes in our approach to soil and food system management, we can revitalize this planet by reconnecting the natural carbon cycles that have long maintained balance in our soil, water, and air in order for biology to thrive. It's our empowerment duty to educate ourselves regarding our food and health and shift our role in the consumption of this planet's natural resources. We can begin to co-create with the farmers and growers of the food we consume. Without healthy soil, our products not only will lack nutrients, but it will invite chemicals into our own biology and ecosystem. These chemicals will continue to break down the cornerstone of our health, our immune system, if we let them. There are many other ways to be proactive about your health. Small changes today can help you strengthen your microbiome. Take action to decrease your exposure to pesticides and increase your connection to Mother Nature. Zach. Proactive ways Get outside. Diversify your exposure to different outdoor environments as much as possible. Seek diversity in your day and breathe in new ecosystems. Your microbiome is an extension of your greater ecosystem that you interact with each day. The more you adventure, the deeper your health will root. Eat regeneratively. Food grown using regenerative agricultural practice provides the optimal environment for nutritional rich, healthy food to grow. Seek out farmers and restaurants in your area who use regenerative practices or sources from regenerative farms, and take a look at your pantry to really determine what is contributing or degrading your microbiome. Our nonprofit Farmers Footprint has begun publishing a list of regenerated farms in the U.S. that may be a great place to start your journey. Grow organic communities. The third largest crop grown in the U.S. at 40 million acres is lawn grass. This monoculture grass is fed enormous amount of chemical fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides, making our yards, the schoolyard, soccer field, parks, and golf courses some of the most toxic acreage in the U.S. Learn to eliminate all chemical inputs with a non-toxic Neighborhoods project at Farmers Footprint. Diversify your diet. When you diversify your diet with nutritional dense organic food, you are strengthening your microbiome. The closer your plate is to the garden, the better. Organic CSA and farmers' medical market resources are go-to when your own backyard is not producing. The daily addition of a few bites of wild fermented foods and eating local fruits and vegetables in their appropriate season and growing your own food are great ways to diversify your inner ecology. Avoid probiotic use. Probiotics represents a very narrow representation of bacteria species that have been grown to many billions of replicates. The daily use of probiotics has been shown to reduce the biodiversity in the gut, especially after antibiotic usage. Your gut is intended to have 20,000 to 30,000 species of bacteria. A typical probiotic has 3 to 7 species. We have created a monoculture of gut flora with the probiotic industry, just as chemical farming has created large-scale monoculture across our globally agricultural landscapes. The global loss of biodiversity is at the root of our health crisis. Rather than probiotics go after the outdoors and eat wild, fermented, rather than probiotic cultured foods. Protect your gut. It's why we created Ion Biome to regain the strength of our gut lining after exposure to glyphosate and other chemicals we are exposed to on a daily basis. If we're successful together in ridding our land of chemicals like glyphosate, we put biome out of business. Showing the regenerated movement. Support Farmers Footprint and our mission to regenerate 5 million acres of farmland by 2025. By supporting our cause, you help to support farmers and communities making the transition from chemical dependency to the life-giving practice of regenerative soil management. If you are seeking a more active role in your schools and community, consider becoming a soil health advocate through the online certification program. Soil health is arguably the most important element impacting our health, the health of future generations, and the health of this planet we call home. Join the Regen Revolution. Zach, roll in the dirt. Dave and Zach are what's really pulling our guts apart, and what's going on inside your gut, what the environmental factors are, and what you can do about it. Zach on plant health versus human health as a doctor. What got you going in this whole thing? One of the most exciting developments that happened in my career was finding that there were some vitamin A compounds that were enabling these cancer cells to shut themselves down and commit suicide. Zach's goosebumps moments. That was an incredible journey of starting to see cancer not as some disease that crops out of nowhere, not a genetic disease, I was told by the American Cancer Institute, and everything but actually just a breakdown in cell-cell communication. The most abundant receptor in the human cell is really this RXR receptors. What does it do? We twice removed from anything on our plate. That's largely why we're so in the dark age about our beliefs about nutrition, because in fact, you're never feeding yourself when you sit down to a plate of food. You're always feeding your bacteria, which are then modifying your behavior and the behavior of your mitochondria to produce ultimate fuel. How cancer is all about cell-cell communication. A cell with uninterrupted access to information will never disease or die. Zach on his work with chemotherapy. We are starting to see these correlations between microbiome genomics and human disease outcomes. Now it was originally received as crazy. A lot of juicing, a lot of fermentation, a lot of stuff, and seeing big changes. Zach on his practice. Zach on the biohacking community. My hat's off to all of you. You're an inspiration to the world because you guys are really taking responsibility for yourselves, number one. But then you immediately applying the truth that you're finding into a communication network of your own to create a way outside of you. At that moment, we started to research soil. That changed everything. For thousands of years, the pharmaceutical industry and their herbal community and Chinese medicine have been looking at the plants. There's been a paucity of research and investigation into the deeper story underneath the plant of where the plant's getting that magic. I think my purpose is here. This is why I was born. This is why I did ridiculous journey in academic was just for this moment. The blinders came off. The three-dimensional structure on the right side of the molecule looked like the chemotherapy that I had been making years previously. They're like snowflakes. They're actually what we call them in the lab, to carbonate snowflakes. Electron potential is literally health. Disease is all about positive charge absorption of electrons, loss of electron potential. Zach on his discovery deep in a white paper on dirt. With the molecules we found is a carbon backbone molecule that got redox potential. How the human body is like a phone connection to a cell phone tower. That's exactly what's happening to the acceleration of the aging process that we see happening in this chronic disease epidemic. People are getting disconnected from their own message. Suddenly, this answered the whole thing. Oh my gosh. If you have a screwed up ecosystem in your gut and you start to get perpetuation in any particular direction, you get a loss of this ecosystem. You get an overgrowth of this part of the ecosystem. What's going to happen is you're going to suddenly lose a part of that wireless communication network. You're going to become vulnerable at multiple levels within the human body. The other thing I want to ask you about this is something I've been writing a lot about this, is because we're doing things to destroy our soil because we basically say, oh, that only affects bacteria, therefore it doesn't affect us, which is just a false assumption. But spraying glyphosate on soil disrupts bacteria in the soil that now we know toxic, your gut biome. Glyphosate will start at the soil. Glyphosate, if you're not familiar with it, it is the active ingredient in the famous weed killer called Roundup. How is it killing the soil and your gut biome? Number one thing is that glyphosate, which is now the number one chemical on the planet. 4.5 billion pounds of glyphosate dumped annually around the globe. Unfortunately, it's a water-soluble toxin, which should never happen in nature. We have a water-soluble toxin, meaning it's going to go every level of the environment. It's in the air you breathe. It's in 75% of the air of the U.S., 75% of the rainfall. It's penetrated every level because of its water nature. That means it's doing the same thing in your body. It's in your bloodstream. It's in your urine. It's in your cerebral spinal fluid. It's going everywhere as this water-soluble chemical that's all over the place now. It's in every bite of food we eat. I believe it's in every drink of water. It's everywhere. Get out in nature. We have a lot of natural parks that are not being visited right now. We are not visiting these places. I invite you to go explore as many natural parks as you can in the next couple of years, because there is still some intact microbiome. I would tell you my top 3 favorites, except you would all show up there. But go find your own favorite few, because I guarantee you, you're going to find microbiome you have never experienced in your life. We think of fermented foods and probiotics. All that is just spitting in the wind compared to the potential of just breathing good quality, rich air with microbiome. I and my patients go out to Virginia Beach and breathe air, and then down in southern Virginia, down by the swamps, then up into the Appalachian Trail. Be by the waterfalls, breathe ancient ecosystems along the East Coast. A huge hotspot is down in Tennessee, the Great Smokies, one of the most diverse ecosystems on the planet. I traveled as extensively as you do, and I try to make sure that at least part of the travel has taken me to some far-flung places. Just came back from the Great Barrier Reef and start breathing air down there that I know I've never been exposed to. Some of the islands along the Barrier Reef I know have some profound ancient microbiome. You start going to these environments that you've never been, and you're adding years to your life. I really have a profound, strong conviction that the more you breathe in new environments, the longer you're going to live. Zag and travel just to breathe the air. We have separated ourselves from just fundamental, easy, cheap, frankly free mechanisms of microbiome exchange, which is touch Mother Earth. Our knowledge is going exponential. Our ability to communicate that knowledge to internet and everything else that's coming behind that super exciting. I think we're going to see an acceleration, obviously, of what this community knows, what the biohackers are doing. You guys are going to start having these conferences more frequently, I think, because the amount of information, the stars that are going to emerge every 3 months on this planet over the next 5 to 10 years is going to be mind-boggling. You have 70 trillion human cells, which is an impressive number, but you have 1.4 quadrillion bacteria, fungi, etc., and you have 14 quadrillion mitochondria living within you. You are, if anything, a vehicle for the microbiome to travel the world and communicate more broadly a purpose of life itself. I think if we stop thinking of ourselves as human and start to think of ourselves as a connected biology and to the entirety of Mother Nature, we were going to win the game on a bigger level. If science proved some belief of Buddhism wrong, then Buddhism will have to change, he has said. These are striking words from Dalai Lama, the leader of a major world religion. Our ancestors had a completely different diet than what we have today. The food was organic and came from rich soil. They had no preservative, chemicals, and no boxed foods. If you walk into a grocery store today, you will find that 99% of the food didn't exist back then. A major pandemic is occurring around the world, yet it is silent. Our internal chemistry set is being damaged from within and without. Never before has the human body gone through such a drastic and negative transformation. During this healing crisis, I was taking a 12-week course on Milarepa's healing system. Ironically, I had the most major healing crisis in my life occur. Yet, there's always magic behind the scenes. I saw that you can't go against the laws of nature and the universe. I had to get my left pinky toe amputated to reset my body clock. I was extremely fortunate. There was a time a week ago that I felt my body did a reset. I still had to go to the hospital and have my pinky toe removed. A wise man follows the latest science and at the same time ancient wisdom. Both of these are needed on this journey of life. You can't have one without the other. There must be a marriage between the two. Buddha taught us to be conscious and aware of every moment. We must use the latest science to bring an understanding of our predicament. Currently, the majority of the population, including myself, are being swindled. The foods we eat are killing us. It's almost killed me. I hope this book will help you on this journey and give you the necessary wisdom. I believe that Milarepa's healing system could implement the latest scientific evidence of healing. The times have changed dramatically. This ancient wisdom was extremely relevant when the human body wasn't implementing the Western diet. I believe an updated version is needed. Milaresa's system truly works when the body is in harmony. How can I say this? I had a karmic situation that occurred. By eating too much sugar in my diet, I was led to a situation where I could lose my entire left foot. Mind you, I was thinking I was perfectly well. I have been sick only a few times in my life. Everything is a blessing in disguise. The operating system of my body was reset. I now can take the great wisdom of Milarepa and the great wisdom stemming from the great scientific minds of today. Mind you, these scientific minds are renegades. Western scientists does not appreciate those who think outside of the box. I feel blessed to have external knowledge coming from science, at the same time, eternal teachings stemming from within. Internal radar. I have spent most of my life consciously living a life of preventative medicine. Both my twin brother and I started this in high school. Yet, you can never rest on your laurels. One always has to fine-tune the guitar of life. For over 50 years, I've researched and changed my lifestyle accordingly. Yet, I was still missing a piece of the puzzle. I never imagined eating ice cream, grains, bread, tortillas, and cheese would cause so much havoc in my life. Yet, I didn't see the signals until years later. The signals were there. The radar was turned on, yet I didn't consciously pick up on them and interrupt them and interpret them at all. Yet years later, I could see what my body was signaling all the time. Diabetes growth rate steadily, adding to healthcare burdens. More than 100 million U.S. adults are now living with diabetes or prediabetes, according to a new reported icon released today by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The report finds that as of 2015, 30.3 million Americans, 9.4% of the U.S. populations have diabetes. Another 84.1 million have prediabetes, a condition that if not treated often leads to type 2 diabetes within 5 years. The report confirms that the rate of new diabetes diagnosis remains steady. However, the disease continues to represent a growing health problem. Diabetes was the 7th leading cause of death in the United States in 2015. The report also includes county-level data for the first time and shows that some areas of the country bear a heavier diabetes burden than others. Although these findings reveal some progress in diabetes management and prevention, there are still too many Americans with diabetes and prediabetes, said CDC Director Brenda Fitzgerald, MD. More than a third of U.S. adults have prediabetes, and the majority don't know it. Now, more than ever, we must step up our efforts to reduce the burden of this serious disease. Diabetes is a serious disease that can often be managed through physical activity, diet, and the appropriate use of insulin and other medications to control blood sugar levels. People with diabetes are at increased risk of serious health complications, including premature death, vision loss, heart disease, stroke, kidney failure, and amputation of toes, feet, or legs. The National Diabetes Statistics Report, released approximately every 2 years, provides information on diabetic prevalence and incidence, prediabetes, risk factors for complications, acute and long-term complications, mortality, and cost in the United States. Key findings from the National Diabetic Statistics Report. This report finds that in 2015, an estimated 1.5 million new cases of diabetics were diagnosed among people ages 18 and older. Nearly 1 in 4 adults living with diabetes. 7.2 million Americans don't know they had the condition. Only 11.6% of adults with pre-diabetics knew they had it. Rates of diagnosed diabetics increased with age. Among adults aged 18 to 44, 0.4% had diabetes. Among those ages 45 to 64, 17% had diabetes. And among those ages 65 years and older, 25% had diabetes. Rates of diagnosed diabetes were higher among American Indians, American Alaskan Natives, 15.1%, non-Hispanic blacks, 12.7%, and Hispanics, 12.1%, compared to Asians, 8.0%, and non-Hispanic whites, 7.4%. Other differences included diabetes prevalence varied significantly by education. Among U.S. adults with less than a high school education, 12.6% had diabetes. Among those with a high school education, 9.1% had diabetes. And among those with more than a high school education, 7.2% had diabetes. More men, 36.6%, had prediabetics than women, 29.3%. Rates were similar among women and men across racial, ethnic groups or educational levels. The southern and Appalachian areas of the United States have the highest rates of diagnosed diabetes and of new diabetes cases. Consistent with previous trends, our research shows that diabetes cases are still increasing, although not as quickly as in previous years, said Ann Albright, PhD. Diabetes is a contributing factor to so many other serious health conditions. By addressing diabetes, we limit other health problems such as heart disease, stroke, nerve and kidney diseases, and vision loss. Commentary. We, as a nation, are going down the tubes. Ironically, there are no other nations in the world far worse than ours. The government needs to step up to the plate and change the pyramid structure. They won't do so because of the influence of big corporations and the influence they have. We are getting sicker and sicker as a nation. Big business does not want you to be well. They are making huge profits from you. They have no real desire to heal you. 2 years ago, I saw on the news a CEO from a major pharmaceutical industry say, "Our goal is to make money from our shareholders, not to cure you." Body signals. Are you listening? We very often ignore the signals of our body. How many times were you tired but just went on? Does it happen to you that you have to pee but don't go straight to the toilet because you want to finish your task first? Do you sometimes feel your stomach cringing when you're asked to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable? Your body is talking to you. It knows exactly what it needs. The message is clear, but are you listening? Love your body as much as your friend. We often see our body as a vehicle to transport our head to school, work, social events. A lot of us have the belief that the mind and body are entities that function independently of each other, and our mind overrules our body signals most of the time, including stress, fatigue, anxiety, hunger, the need to go to the bathroom, and so on. Whenever our mind wants, needs to happen, even though we don't take care of or listen to our body, when some physical part breaks down, our mind over and over blames our body for being weak. But when you really listen to your body, you will see that it's actually trying to tell your mind something. In fact, our body is very intelligent. It knows exactly how much oxygen it needs and how to show you when it's lacking nutrients, to name just a few examples. However, a lot of times we are cut off from these signals. When a friend is talking to you, you probably pay attention and try to serve his needs right. So why don't we love our bodies as much as our friends? Respect your body like your wisest teacher. In yoga, the wisdom is called your inner teacher. You stifle the voice of your inner teacher every time you continue to hurt yourself in some way throughout your life, whether that be through your relentless perfectionism, ruthless self-criticism, or blatant disregard for your body's needs. A lot of us becomes quite adept at ignoring the signals of our intuition, often even seeing it as a form of self-control, being able to overcome the signals of body and soul. As it may take some time to really respect a teacher in life, to really understand his words, the same way we have to learn to respect the wisdom of our bodies. But don't you think it's time to start listening now? There are two ways we can listen and gather information from our body. Our physiology sends signals about our inside world, while our senses pick up information from the outside world. We go deeper into both types of body signals and have to listen to them. Ignoring body signals about our inside world, we repeatedly ignore signals that function to keep our vehicle running. You probably ignore your basic needs for sleep, food, water, and going to the bathroom quite often. I have to admit, I do. Because regularly I think that the work I'm doing at the moment is more important than refilling my water bottle. Or I'm in a conversation and don't want to disturb my conversational partner, so I hold my pee. How often do you get a headache because you are dehydrated? Are you used to skipping meals because you don't have time to eat? And what about sleep? How often do you go to bed when you're feeling tired? How often do you take an afternoon nap because you feel you need it. By chance, you're ignoring these signals frequently, huh? It sounds very childish, maybe, and so obvious that you should follow up on those basic signals. But sadly, a lot of us often don't do that. But ignoring your body is the equivalent of slapping duct tape on your car's check engine light. How effective is that? In the short term, you may buy yourself some time, but the problem doesn't go away. And if you ignore it long enough, it is likely to result in a catastrophe physical breakdown. So if you don't make the mistakes of using your mind to override your body, you'll be highly productive until you burn out or get serious physical diseases. To arrive successfully at your destination, you need to pay attention to the internal condition of your vehicle while paying attention to the external driving conditions. Ignoring body signals about your outside world. Besides our physiology sending signals about our outside world, our senses pick up information from the outside world. Your observations, interpretations, and ideas that you form from this information can have an impact on your inside world. There are times when I'm in a situation that someone is explaining something to me, and I really don't get it, but I don't dare to ask more questions. Afterwards, I can feel a bit anxious because I didn't know what to do. Have you ever noticed that your heart started pounding, your throat narrows, or you get a stomachache after such a social interaction? Or maybe you feel very alert and can't sleep because you're doing a task with a lot of responsibility. Knowing when you need to ask more questions, or if a job is not a good fit for you, or just a few important insights that result from being tuned in to your physiology. Interpreting your body is the first step to understanding yourself and getting clear about how to respond to any situation. When you are tuned in, what's happening outside you, changes in your environment or in someone else's tone or body language will provide clues about your interactions with others. And being aware of what's happening within, your physical reaction to those changes will give you important feedback about your thoughts, emotions, and desires. Learn to communicate with your body. The internal signals you receive from your body match your values and the actions you take. You will likely feel calm, peaceful, and aligned. When you are not aligned, in other words, when you override your body's signals and take action that is different from what you really want, you may feel overwhelmed, upset, or disconnected. You need to learn about your body communicating with your mind. Your body is sending you messages, whether you are aware of them or not. These psychological signals are unique for each individual. For example, I experience a racing heart because I am nervous about having a tough conversation. You may feel low energy for the same reason. Stress may cause one person's stomach to churn and another to start sweating excessively. How does your body communicate with you and demand your attention? Physical signals from your body may actually also mean that you need medical attention. So always make sure to get checked out by your health professional first. But once you know there's no medical issue and you learn to decipher your body's signal, The signals may act as a friendly reminder not to behave in a certain way. When choosing a certain behavior, ask your body, how do you feel about this? If your body sends a signal of physical or emotional distress, watch out. If your body signals a signal of comfort and eagerness, proceed. And really, take care of your needs for your inner world. Sleep when you're tired. Eat when you're hungry. Drink when you're thirsty. Go to the bathroom directly when you feel the need to. Your body is your temple and your wisest teacher. Take care of it. Misinterpreting body signals. Listening to physical signals can bring you really deep and help you distinguish between the healthy and unhealthy, the wholesome and unwholesome. And eventually, your inner wisdom will make you realize that you are a lot of times lying to yourself. Usually, the unhealthy behaviors are a sign that you are craving something and you have learned to get it through an unwholesome behavior. It's good to be aware of the fact that our mind gets really confused by certain body signals, since we have a lot of unhealthy, unwholesome things to consume in our modern society. From our nature, sugar, for instance, is something very precious. Sugar was only available in fruits which nourished us and with vitamins, but nowadays we have access to pure, refined sugar, which disorders our body signals. So, next time when you're craving something sweet, remind yourself that your body is most likely to crave for vitamins, not for empty calories. You need to return that your sugar craving is not really helping you, but that it's actually destroying you. Another example is smoking. For a lot of people, this is an allowance to take a break, to come out, to zone out, and take time for themselves. If you really listen to your inner signals, you will recognize that you are misinterpreting your real need. Maybe you're actually wanting connection with people, and smoking is great because then you have a reason to talk to strangers. The same thing happens with sexual desire. Often the sexual drive is not that big when you actually take a closer look. You're just craving for human connection. You don't only need to listen, but as we apply your deeper inner wisdom to see what you really need, and then you'll make it easier to replace unwholesome behavior with wholesome behavior, replacing a bad habit with a healthy habit. Use body signals to get to know your true nature. Listening to your inner teacher will help you to get closer to your true you and loving this true you. Actually, listening to your body signals is a form of self-inquiry. Self-inquiry is the constant attention to the inner awareness of I, or I am, as a way of discovering the unreality of the I thought. The Sanskrit word is vichara, which means deliberation. It is a tuning of attention and consciously inward towards yourself and towards the truth of your nature. It is a practice of redirecting attention away from outward objects, events, and experiences, and towards that experience within your body and being, including subtle experiences within awareness itself. Eventually, this inward force can lead to an experience of your ultimate true nature, and even beyond that experience itself, to a dimension that is empty of any experience or sense of self. About the author, Lorna D. Riddler. Iona is living for several months at the Mindfulness Project. She loves the deep connection she makes, the magic of the talking circle, cooking, the amazing vegan food, and the morning yoga and meditation.
Age is timeless. What if I told you in about 100 years we would have this incredible device? Imagine putting on a ring before you get up from bed in the morning. As soon as you put the ring on, you merge with the quantum field. You are no longer a body. You are beyond time and space. You have entered a field of intelligence that is beyond time and space. The Buddhists may call this Buddha mind. Christians may call it the kingdom of heaven. Scientists may call it the quantum field. Imagine this device has the intelligence to scan your body and sense if any negative energy or darkness appears in your auric field. Scientists discovered way back in the 1990s that darkness first appears in your auric field, and then slowly through time, it appears in your physical body. During the early 2000s, Western medicine still used drugs which had tremendous side effects to try to heal most diseases. Mind you, these drugs had tremendous side effects. By the way, most drug manufacturers were interested in making huge profits, and your health was secondary. This device knew what custom chemicals and hormones which the human brain and heart knew how to produce. Imagine the universe drugstore exists inside of you, and this device was intelligent enough to know precisely what energy frequencies, chemicals, and hormones was needed to bring the mind, body, and soul into alignment. This experience only lasted for around a minute, yet it seemed timeless, which it was. Upon getting out of your bed, you were in perfect harmony throughout the day. In the past, your subconscious mind controlled 95% of your actions. It still does. Yet mankind learned how to reprogram the subconscious with the quantum field. All past negative experiences were transformed. The survival mechanism of fight and flight was once again totally stabilized. Remember, in the early 2000s, mankind's faucet of adrenaline was turned on, and mankind didn't know how to turn it off. Consequently, diseases was rampant throughout the land. Most mental diseases and physical diseases were eradicated a long time ago. You see, mankind discovered how to be in balance with the quantum field. War was a thing from the past. Politics changed so much we couldn't even recognize it today. Nobody could run for office without being in a state of love, kindness, and compassion. Because people lived in the quantum state, someone who tried to run for office, you could literally smell and sense the darkness. People could see integrity and see the harsh ego of those who only wanted to serve themselves. You see, mankind in such a short time learned how to evolve emotionally to such a high level. My timing may be off, yet this will come true. Mystics have talked about this for thousands of years. Today, modern-day scientists and mystics are merging their various technology. The ring has existed inside of you for thousands of years. Great teachers like Muhammad Christ and Buddha knew how to discover the jewel that exists inside every one of us. Today, we're inching towards a new revolution of love. Just think, 30 years ago, a brain scan device cost about $20,000. Today, a Muse 2 costs around $250. The cost over time will come down, even more over time. Each device will get smaller and more sophisticated. Dr. Joe Dispenza, in his week-long retreats, is photographing the auric field and the photos displayed in various colors, the state of the energy centers or chakras. During this 7-day retreat, people learn how to transform themselves. Many incredible diseases have been cured by his students. The students learn the power to heal lies inside of themselves. Each human being can access their natural drugstore to heal almost any ailment. What's amazing is, after the retreat, they once again photograph the energy centers and the darkness and balance has disappeared. This has happened thousands of times. Dr. Joe Dispenza has a huge database which scientists and universities are using around the world. Another incredible institute is the HeartMath Institute. They have been the forefront of discovering heart coherence. This is from their website. Adding heart translates into increased care and genuine connection with others and harmonizes the resistance between our own mind and heart. Adding heart is especially about practicing kindness and compassion, along with forgiveness and latitude in our interactions. Adding heart increases the love flowing through our system, which can play a large part in solving the collective challenges of those transitional times. HMI has developed reliable, scientific validated tools since 1991, helping people reduce and avoid stress while experiencing increased peace, satisfaction, and enjoyment. Research at the HeartMath Institute shows that adding heart to our daily activities and connections produce measurable benefits to our own and other well-being. We at the dawn are recognizing love as a new transformational intelligence. Dr. Bruce Lipton, aka the father of epigenetics, states that epigenetics doesn't change the genetic code. It changes how that's read. Perfectly normal genes can result in cancer or death. Vice versa. In the right environment, mutant genes won't be expressed. Genes are equivalent to blueprints. Epigenetics is the contractor. All these work in harmony with each other. They are the cutting edge of technology. Mind you, the ring doesn't exist today, but there are many technologies if merged will be the ring in the future. Fortunately for you, the human body is wired for this experience. You have the hardware and software already existing inside of you. It's up to you to use it appropriately. If you want the world to change, you must change yourself. You can learn how to reprogram your mind and body. You can learn how to live in the quantum field. After all, this is where you came from, and ultimately, this is where you're going to return to when you die.
Thank God for antibodies. Thank God for antibodies. The word antibodies was first used over 30 years later by the Ukrainian-American inventor and microbiologist Selman Waksman, who in his lifetime discovered over 20 antibodies. Alexander Fleming was, it seems, a bit disorderly in his work and accidentally discovered penicillin. These are life-saving medicines. Without these, I probably wouldn't have a left foot today. There is a time and place for taking antibiotics. Many doctors overprescribe, and when a person desperately needs them, they don't work properly. There is a fine line here.
Why? Your doctor's advice to take all your antibiotics may be wrong. You've heard it many times before from your doctor. If you're taking antibiotics, don't stop taking them until the pill vial is empty, even if you feel better. The rationale behind this commandment has always been that stopping treatment too soon would fuel the development of antibiotic resistance, the ability of bugs to evade those drugs. Information campaigns aimed at getting the public to take antibiotics properly have been driving home this message for decades. But the warning a growing number of experts say is misguided may actually be exacerbating antibiotic resistance. The reasoning is simple. Exposure to antibiotics is what drives bacteria to develop resistance. Taking drugs when you aren't sick anymore simply gives the body the hordes of bacteria in and on your body more incentive to evolve to evade the drugs. So the next time you have an infection, that may not work. The traditional reasoning from doctors never makes any sense. It doesn't make any sense today. Dr. Louis Rice, chairman of the Department of Medicine at the Warren Alpert Medical School at Brown University, told staff, some colleagues credit Rice with being the first person to declare the emperor was wearing no clothes, and it is true that he challenged the dogma in lectures at major meetings of infectious disease physicians and researchers in 2007 and 2008. A number of researchers now share his skepticism of health guidance that has been previously universally accepted. The question of whether this advice is still appropriate will be raised at a World Health Organization meeting next month in Geneva. A report prepared for that meeting, the agency's expert committee on the selection and use of essential medicine, already notes that the recommendation isn't backed by science. In many cases, an argument can be made for stopping a course of antibiotics immediately after bacterial infection has been ruled out, or when the signs and symptoms of a mild infection has disappeared, suggest the reports, which analyze information campaigns designed to get the public on board with efforts to fight antibiotic resistance. No one is doubting the life-saving importance of antibiotics. They kill bacteria, but the more the bugs are exposed to the drugs, the more survival tricks the bacteria acquire, and the more resistance the bacteria becomes, the harder they are to treat. The concern is that the growing number of bacteria that are resistant to multiple antibiotics will lead to more incurable infections that will threaten medicine's ability to conduct routine procedures like hip replacements or open heart surgery without endangering lives. So how did this faulty paradigm become entrenched in medical practice? The answer lies back to the 1940s, the dawn of antibiotic use. At that time, resistance wasn't a concern. After the first antibiotic, penicillin, was discovered more and more gushed out of the pharmaceutical product pipeline. Doctors were focused only on figuring out how to use the drugs effectively to save lives. And ethereals emerge. Treat patients until they get better, and then for a little bit longer to be on the safe side. Around the same time, research on how to cure tuberculosis suggesting that underdosing patients was dangerous, the infection would come back. The idea that stopping antibiotic treatment too quickly after symptoms went away might fuel resistance took hold. The problem is once it gets back into culture, it really is hard to access it, said Dr. Brad Spielberg, who is also an advocate for changing this advice. Spielberg is an infectious disease specialist and chief medical officer at the Los Angeles County University of Southern California Medical Center in Los Angeles. Related, Nevada woman dies of a superbug resistance to every available antibiotic in the U.S. We think of medicine as a science guided by mountains of research, but doctors sometimes prescribe antibiotics more based on their experience and intuition than anything else. There are treatment guidelines for different infections, but some provide scant advice on how long to continue treatment. Rice acknowledged that a response to treatment will differ from patient to patient depending on, among other things, how old they are, how strong their immune systems are, or how well they metabolize drugs. There's little incentive for pharmaceutical companies to conduct expensive studies aimed at finding the shortest duration of treatment for various conditions. But in the years since Rice first raised the question, the National Institute of Health has been funding such research, and almost invariably the ensuing studies have found that many infections can be cured more quickly than had been thought. Treatments that were once 2 weeks have been cut to 1, 10 days have been reduced to 7, and so on. There have been occasional exceptions. Just before Christmas, scientists at the University of Pittsburgh reported that 10 days of treatment for other middle ear infections was way better than 5 days for children under 2 years of age. The superbugs are growing in number and strength. It was a surprise, said Spielberg, who noted that studies looking at the same conditions in children 2 and older show the shorter treatment works. Most of this work is needed, Rice said. I'm not here saying that every infection can be treated for 2 days or 3 days. I'm just saying, let's figure it out. In the meantime, doctors and public health agencies are in a quandary. How do you put the new thinking into practice? And how do you advise the public? Doctors know full well some portion of people unilaterally decide to stop taking the antibiotics because they feel better. But that approach is not safe in all circumstances. For example, tuberculosis or bone infections. And it's not an approach many physicians feel comfortable endorsing. This is a very tricky question. It's not easy to make a blatant statement about this, and there isn't a simple answer. Dr. Laurie Hicks, director of the Center for Disease Controls and Prevention Officer of Antibiotic Stewardship, told Stat Naima, there are certain diagnoses for which shortening a course of antibiotic therapy is not recommended or potentially dangerous. On the other hand, there are probably many situations for which antibiotic therapy is often prescribed for longer than necessary, and the optimal duration is likely until the patient gets better. Related, nearly 1/3 of antibiotics are prescribed unnecessarily. CDC's Get Smart campaign on appropriate antibiotic use urges people never to skip doses or to stop the drugs because they're feeling better. But Hicks noted the CDC recently revised it to add, unless your healthcare professional tells you to do so, to that advice. And that's one way to deal with the situation, said Dr. James Johnson, a professor of infectious disease medicine at the University of Minnesota and a specialist at the Minnesota VA Medical Center. In fact, sometimes some of us give that instruction to patients. Here, I'm going to prescribe you for a week. My guess is you won't need it more than just say 3 days. If you're all well in 3 days, stop then. If you're not completely well, then make it a little longer. But as soon as you feel fine, stop, and we can give them permission to do that. Spielberg is more comfortable with the idea of people checking back with their doctor before stopping their drugs, an approach that requires doctors to be willing to have that conversation. You should call your doc and say, "Hey, can I stop?" If your doctor won't get on the phone with you for 20 seconds, you need to find another doctor. About the author, Helen Bransfeld, senior writer, infectious disease. Helen creates issues broadly related to an infectious disease, including outbreaks, preparedness, research, and vaccine development.